Hi.
What's up? Peace. Gun.
We're back.
I don't know. Hey, this is episode 12. It's the 12th time we've come up on here to talk about frequencies and the Healy device. And today is no different. We got some fun information about quantum mechanics. We'll try and make today's episode a little short, but we just thought we'd share some information today, really. Yeah?
All right. What do you got? You have a video too?
Yeah. Yeah, I got the video.
You probably should have sent it to me before, but
I
what do you
mean, I
got?
think I can do the same thing, right? I can share it.
I guess so, yeah.
Um, Maybe I'll just, before I play it, talk about it a little bit first.
Okay.
Yeah, because we both are into quantum mechanics. And I mean, we're hobbyists, I guess, if you could say that. And coming from a sound background and energy is no different to sound. And so this double slit experiment that was done by Thomas Young, I think his name is. Anyway, he's in the video. He did this experiment back in 1927, and it blew all the scientists' minds. And still to this day, we can't answer the question. We can't answer the question of, are particles, or do protons and subatomic particles act as a wave, or do they act as a particle? And at this point, we keep doing this experiment called the double slit experiment over and over and over again. And it's pretty much saying that it acts as a wave, which is mind blowing to a lot of physicists, especially back in the 1920s when we were doing, what's his name? Newtonian physics. So Sir Isaac Newton kind of paved the way for what physics was, and Einstein and people like Tesla were really talking about molecules and particles and atoms. And this study in particular, we still have not answered the question, particle or wave for subatomic particles. And why that makes sense and how that connects with the Healy, maybe we could talk about after you guys see the video.
So you're saying that these subatomic particles could actually just be a frequency or a wave as opposed to actually like a physical particle, right? And they
Yeah,
can't determine that. Okay.
yeah, and that's the whole thing.
Hmm.
So let me share screen. Is that what it is? Share tab. Yep,
Hopefully, we've
that's
never
it.
done it from your end before, so this is an experiment. Oh, there
Good.
we go. Okay, so then I share it from your phone. Gotcha. Boom.
Does that work?
Yeah, you're doing it right now.
Okay.
It's happening.
Here we go.
You may know about or remember one of the most famous experiments in the history of physics, the experiment of Thomas Young, the double slit experiment. It was a real coup in physics and led many scientists into the study of quantum mechanics. If you throw solid balls at a shield with a slit cut into it, a single diffuse strip designating the strike points will appear on the screen behind the shield. If there are two slits in the shield, then there will be two strips. But how will waves behave if aimed at the shield? They will pass through the slot and spread out. The greatest impact of the waves will be in the line of the slit, as in the case with the balls. But if you add a second slit, everything changes. A number of alternating interference strips will appear on the projection screen. And when we shine light on the two strips, this is exactly what happens. And this is how Mr. Young proved the wave theory of light. If light were corpuscular, like a particle, instead of wave-like, it would behave like the balls, and the screen would show two strips of light corresponding to the two slits. That didn't happen. Later, it turned out that electrons and protons behave exactly the same way, showing that they also seem to exist as waves and not as points. There was one assumption that perhaps light and the others were particles, and that somehow the particles bumped into each other and flew apart. So, to test this, physicists decided to shoot electrons at the target one by one, single file. And what do you think happened? The strangest thing imaginable. the interference pattern still appeared on the screen. It seemed that the single electron somehow divided into two waves, passed through both slits, then interfered with themselves. Impossible. So physicists tried to find out through which gap the electron actually passes. They installed measuring instruments to check this. Another seeming impossibility occurred. The electrons stopped behaving like waves and began acting like particles, and left a trace on the screen of two distinct strips with no interference. They had to admit something completely mind-blowing, that the fact of our observation or measurement destroyed the wave function of the photons, causing them to become like points, corpuscular. The electron, under the influence of observation, behaved like a particle, flying through one slit and not through two. Interpretations. Well, it certainly looks like the work of a game engine, doesn't it? This might make you think that our world is running like a game on a computer. The computer's power is not enough to calculate the motion of each and every particle, so it uses a simplified model and applies precise calculations only if an observer needs to look at the particle, so as not to break the illusion of the reality of the world for the observer.
Whoa, that got deep at the end.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of information there.
So can you explain the end part where he was talking about like a video game or a simulation, I guess? How does that correlate to this experiment?
Well, apparently, the experiment changes when you observe it. So if you don't watch the experiment and you just let it auto run and nobody watches it, then the particle will act as a wave. But the moment that you observe the experiment, then the particle acts like a particle.
Mm.
So what people are saying, they kind of said, oh, it looks like a game design, but basically a lot of people say that that's called the observer effect, that when you are observing reality, because you come with your own preconceived notions of reality and your own ideas of what reality is, by viewing the very subatomic levels of reality, just by viewing it, you change the outcome. If you don't view it and then you go back and look at the result, then the outcome is different.
That's interesting. I wonder if, and we're getting a little deep here, but that's what this whole podcast is about, I guess, is imagine if we were unaware of, I don't know, take for instance what's going on in Ukraine, right? They make the whole world aware of a topic, right? And we observe it through the media and the news and get ideas of what it is, and then that's what it becomes almost. But if nobody knew except for the Ukrainians and the people in that region of what was happening there, and everybody else just went about their day,
would the outcome be different?
Right. Who knows what would happen, right?
Well, I think some people know. I definitely think that it's one of like the biggest secrets. I mean, if you were to really wrap your head around that, the fact that your consciousness affects reality, that very experiment is looking at the very building blocks of what we see every single day as reality, which are atoms, electrons, protons. And they're doing that experiment and realizing that just the mere observation changes the outcome of the experiment to make it a particle or a wave. And for me, it's still over my head, a lot of it. But the idea that our mere observation changes the outcome of reality, to me, is the perplexing thing for all the scientists, and also for a lot of new age or alternative thinking people. it just kind of reaffirms what we all thought that our observation that our energy can affect matter, like
Mm,
physical matter. The manifestation of our everyday life is matter. They
mm,
are particles. We're observing that every day. So the idea that our observation, if we're switched on, maybe, if our consciousness is aware, then maybe we can have a say in what our reality then looks like.
yeah, and I wonder if I was just thinking about like self-awareness, right? Now that is not we're not aware of like an actual particles or material, right? It's like inner awareness of self. So does that have the same effect?
I think so.
So should you be more not self-aware and just live your life and things would flow better or something? Or do you
I
get what
don't
I'm
know.
saying?
I have no idea. I don't know. What I do know, like, I guess this is kind of personal, but sometimes when I
You're not gonna talk about porn again, are
no
you?
don't watch it, it affects you negatively. Um,
Well, if
when
you're
I
watching it, it's the material. You know, maybe your penis will disappear if you stop watching it. Sorry, go ahead.
I have no idea where this is going. No, sometimes when I am alone, right? And I am being creative, whether it's like playing guitar or just meditating, I do notice that I feel freer, that I feel more able to create more, and I do feel like there's a an environment that allows me to connect with something and then channel it out.
Mm,
And it like that's how music comes for me sometimes. If I'm in a space where I feel like there's no interference, there's no observation of any other consciousness other than mine, and the connection to source, maybe, or God, or maybe just the universal field that's around me, it allows me to connect with that. And then I creatively make something, make music or make waves, make frequencies.
mm,
And maybe that's kind of on a fundamental level, like an experiment of how we are in our everyday lives, like people always talk about when they go out in society and you act one way with one person and another way with another person and another way by yourself, or are we always the same person wherever we go? Like all these questions are philosophical questions, but I think if you really look deep and you answer it yourself, we do change with different people, and we change maybe the way that we answer a question because we know they're observing, and
mm.
that interaction changes. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I'm kind of like discovering this all right now out loud after
but there
watching.
are people such as me who don't give a fuck. So what does that mean? So is that like because they're still observing, but it's not affecting.
Well, what does it mean? Because I don't think that you don't give a fuck, because I do think that you do care.
No, I do care, but I don't care about opinions.
I mean, you do though.
I do.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think you do. I mean, I don't think you just like go out and don't give a fuck about like,
I mean, I'm aware of them and I listen to them, and if it strikes a chord with me, then I take it into consideration. But I
yeah,
mean, but like
an
I'm just
awareness.
aware of it. Just being aware of it, I guess, is
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess there is a difference of being aware within a conversation and then just being in a conversation where you're just gonna say what you're gonna say and not really listen to what the other person has to say.
Yo,
Right?
this might be my answer. Like I have this secret theory that people with like bipolar like actually know what the fuck is really going on in the world. Like but nobody pays attention to them because they're like, "Oh, they got bipolar," right? But like those people, they say what's on their mind. They don't care. Those people really are not thinking about anything. They're just like they switch that on and off, and they're one way or they're talking about one thing, and it's just whatever is on their mind. They don't care about the perception of others. I don't know. We're getting deep into probably some other side
Yeah,
shit, but
I honestly can't really speak to bipolar because I don't really know anybody close to me that has it or that has told me.
Kanye
Or
West,
huh?
Kanye West.
Oh yeah, me and him are so close. Like we talk all the time.
I mean, he's like a public figure, is what I'm saying, and you can like see it happening.
Yeah, but I mean, how much do we really know of him through the media? And like
Yeah,
you know, as far as like someone directly connected to me that I speak to on a daily basis that I can say, one way or another. I don't know anybody with bipolar that I talk
anyway,
to every day. Yeah.
throwing it out. So well, let's get back to it. So the observation effect. We're trying to talk right now. We're talking about particles acting like waves or actual particles. They act like particles when they're observed, right? And then we're bringing that up from a like a micro level all the way up to human consciousness, essentially, and we're trying to have conversations about whether that's affecting your daily life, right? And I mean, it has to, right? Because we're made up of electrons and protons and atoms and stuff like that, right? So,
Well, that would be the conclusion that a lot of people come to, but there is a lot of scientists fighting this. They've been fighting it since 1927.
well, of course,
And I don't know why. Obviously, I'm not a physicist per se, and I'm not working in the lab looking at these electrons. But if you watch that video over and over again, and you see over the course of 100 years, we've been doing this experiment, and it does not change, and we still do not know
yeah.
why when we look at the particle, or sorry, when we look at the electron or proton, it acts like a particle, but when we don't look at it, it acts like a wave.
So when they're doing the tests and the two slits, right, and they're sending one a proton or electron, proton through.
Either.
Okay, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. So they're
Subatomic
sending
particle.
one subatomic particle through it. It actually goes through both slits and then reconnects on the other side and hits the wall, right?
Right, because if you think of if water were coming at that slit, it if there's two slits and the water goes through the slit, they form ripples around
Mm,
it, and the ripples then interact, and we saw that in the video.
right.
And so when those ripples interact, then on the wall it shows
A bunch of little.
where it hits the wall. So parts cancel out and there's gaps, and then parts hit the wall. And that is how a wave acts. Whereas a particle, it's either going to go through one slit or the other, was what they thought. But actually, when they're not looking, it goes through both and acts like a wave. And that's the perplexing thing.
That's
So
interesting to me too. Are they aiming it at one slot?
they're just aiming it towards it, and then it either
It chooses, it
misses.
picks.
Well, when you watch it, it either misses it or goes through one. But when you don't watch it, it goes through both and then acts like a wave.
Hmm.
Exactly. It's like you hit this point, I think, mentally, and I feel like scientists are too. Like if they've been discussing this for 100 years, then it's clearly a perplexing thing for even the smartest minds.
Yeah. I
Or
mean,
maybe they've just figured it out and now I first of all, I have to give credit to my brother. He's the one that sent this video. I've seen a lot of double
mm,
slit videos, and I think that one in particular is really thorough and really
It's
short.
easy to understand in a short
Yeah,
video. Yeah.
I mean, I've watched videos that explain that in an hour. I've watched it
Mm.
in 15 minutes, and that one in 3 minutes. If you watch it over and over again, it makes more and more sense because it's really dense. It's packed into that 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And we'll put the link, when we share this.
Yeah. Send it to me now.
Yeah. But I think just the idea that we affect reality, we affect matter. So, however that makes sense to you in your personal life, however that makes sense to you in your daily life, that you have an effect on your reality, I think that's where we need to go as humanity. Figure out if we have an effect on our reality and we're not happy with it, then we're in charge of fixing that.
Right.
And that's where we start. We have that power, we have that ability as humans. So, how do we take that power and use it every day so that we can not only affect our life positively, but other people positively? And then that brings me to the other experiment that we've done over and over again, where you bring 100 monks to a city to meditate and get the crime level to go down, and every time the crime level in the city goes down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which to me again proves that consciousness has a power to affect reality.
You may know
Well,
about or
sorry.
remember one of the most famous
Shit.
experiments in the history.
I was hoping that wasn't going to happen, but
Is
sorry.
that your porn? Is your porn playing?
Sorry, the porn went on. Damn it.
No, I think that people really blow that over, like, oh, I'm too busy. I've got this going on, this going on, this going on, and my life is too busy. And so we never spend the time to, when people talk about manifesting reality or manifesting money or manifesting things in their life, it's about maybe taking the time and awareness to create that somewhere within your thoughts. And then that matches the frequency out there in the ether for that to happen in your life and actually become a particle, become reality. Because if they're saying that the mere observation of reality makes it a particle, makes it manifest, makes it real, as opposed to a wave, then that right there is it. We just need to do that.
It's like I guess either like meditating or coming up with ideas or thoughts of like things you want to do in life. This is manifestation, right? That's what we were talking about earlier. Uh, and and then creating a list or whatever, and then focusing in on those things, and then you're actually, I mean, if you go by this video and you believe in this, which it's scientifically proven, then you should be able to take that list of things and create the real material in the real world.
Mic drop. All right, we're
Seems
done.
really easy.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wonder actually what the resistance is to that. Why has there been resistance to this for over 100 years?
I think it could be the amount of effort and time that it takes to do it. People want things right away, and if they're not seeing like the total result like immediately, they're like, oh, that's bullshit. But somebody who is self-aware and somebody who understands that things take time and they're in it for the long haul, like they have a goal, they know it takes time to get there, they see the step by step improvements and manifestations throughout their life. And those people are the guys that are out there doing the motivational speaking and trying to tell everybody all this shit. But if you're not focused in on it, then you're not going to see it.
Okay, and then why are we not focused on it? Why are we so busy? What are we doing that we can't have that time?
Well, I mean, there has been a world that's been created here that has funneled a lot of people into this. It's all about the money, right? It's all about money. And if money equals survival nowadays, right? So if you're not making enough money to buy food or pay for your mortgage or whatever, then that becomes the number one priority. And then you start focusing on who can pay me money? How do I get money? Instead of like what you enjoy doing, what you want to manifest outside of money, like whether, even if it's a business or whatever, it's still like something you're passionate about. So I think there's just too many people funneled into this 9 to 5 mentality or whatever, so they don't have time. And I know, I get it. I don't blame them. But it's up to them to pull themselves out of it. And even if you take an hour a day to focus on your passions or something you enjoy doing, it just takes longer. Then those little signs are even smaller if you don't have 100% focus on them. Then it takes even longer, and then the results take forever. Not to say that they can't be accomplished, but they're going to take longer to manifest if you're not 100% focused in on them.
Well, here's another thing too. Like, when I was studying sound healing, the formula for sound healing is frequency plus intent equals healing. So in that equation, intent has a measurable effect with the result of healing. So scientifically, we've proven that a thought is 300 times more powerful if you have emotion with it. So your heart, we're finding out that our heart may be more powerful than our thoughts. When we measure our thoughts with instruments, it's actually a lot easier to measure your heart energy than it is your brain. And so maybe if you have an emotion with your thought, then that becomes even more powerful to create in your reality.
That's passion, right?
Right. I guess, yeah.
Because passion isn't
It's an
just like
emotional thing.
emotion.
It's
It's
not
it's
a
an emotion
mental thing.
and like doing something that you're thinking about, right? And I don't know, right?
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something. So the idea that, say, you look at, I started with the thought that if you're not happy with what you see in your reality, then we have the power to fix that. So conversely, if you don't believe that you have the power and you're just giving away your power, if you look at the world around us, it's filled with distractions that are trying to, I don't want to say steal our power, but you look at social media, it's all, the money comes from where we put our attention. Like when you're scrolling through your news feed and you see those sponsored ads, there's money in our attention, which means that the money is in, if it can grab our eye, steal our attention, and then buy that thing, or be sucked into the idea that someone's trying to sell us. And it's no different to what we see on TV, where they're giving us images all the time to feed us thoughts in our brain that aren't ours.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, because this is where we are in technology, and we are technology is, oh my god, in the last, what, even 10 years, it's probably exponentially increased in complexity. Like the what we can do with our smartphones is just, it's crazy. And if we are just succumb to it taking over our life as opposed to us having control over what we do with it, I think those are two different things, you
Mm.
know and I think a lot of people may be swept up in those other thoughts being implanted in our brains, and
Yeah.
then just kind of on an autopilot, like, oh, this is on my newsfeed, this is what I'm going to say today, this is
Well,
what I'm going to talk about.
that's what culture is, right?
Yeah,
Culture can also be manipulated by people that understand these things, right? So they can inject things that they want. Also, it's to a culture's benefit if, or the person that's doing the manipulation to the culture or the group or whatever, to get a majority of the people on the same page, because they're focusing in on, they're putting this energy into a thing, right?
yeah.
Whatever that is. Um, and it's a bunch of people putting their energy into it. But I think if individuals would understand themselves and understand the power that they have to do all these things for themselves, like, just manifest whatever you think of in yourself. If we had a culture that individually everybody innately understood this, then instead of your friend saying, "Oh, you can't do that because blah blah blah," because the reason why people tell you you can't do things is because they can't do them. So they just assume that the world can't do it, right? Or you have to be extraordinary to do it, and it's nobody that I hang out with, right? um, but if everybody knew that you were able to do these things, and they would encourage other people to push them to do it, and it would be this whole thing. I mean, I'm always thinking about like utopia worlds. I mean, but to do that is not that big of a shift. All you got to do is, like, there is clear manipulation through media. Whoever's doing that, whether it's the banks or powerful individuals that own these companies or something, if they just switch their mindset of just empowering individuals, all the media could be pumping out that, and that could switch in a month. Everybody could start thinking like, wow, I do. And they could play that video and show everybody, and then have these types of conversations on every news channel. um Once again,
What would that
utopia.
do? What would that do to consciousness, right? It
Ugh,
could probably fast track. I don't know. You just don't know, because it goes back to the argument, like, are humans innately good or are they innately bad? Lots of people think that we're innately bad. I
it
think
all
we're,
depends. I mean, I think there's the yin and yang. There are some people that are and some people that aren't.
yeah, true.
It's, you have to have the good with the bad. It's because you wouldn't even know what good is if there wasn't bad.
So it's always just chaos no matter what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
Everything wants to go to chaos, actually, or just not organized. Like if you drop a glass, it breaks, right? Like everything, that's their natural habitat, is just like this computer. Humans like put it all together, nice, but like, eventually it's going to disintegrate and go into particles, and that's where it wants to be right now.
Mhm.
Anyways,
But because we're observing it,
yeah, we're
it's a
putting it.
computer. And we
It's a
all
computer.
say that it's a computer, so it's a computer. So
Hmm.
you stay together, particles.
Until we don't use you anymore, and then nobody's focusing on it, and then it disintegrates.
That's like, does a tree make a sound if it falls in the forest? And you're not there to observe it.
It definitely does.
Does it? You're not there to observe it.
Somebody's hearing it. Squirrel's hearing
Hmm.
it.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna go somewhere else with this. You ever watch that movie Unacknowledged? That documentary,
No.
bro. And then we're gonna go off in another tangent, but who gives a fuck here? I got like maybe 10 minutes, but man, you got to check this movie out. And you want to start talking about UFO?
Unacknowledged.
You want to start talking about UFOs?
Yeah, let's roll into it. Why not?
So this movie came out a few years back, but my buddy's been telling me to watch it for like the past few months, and I was like, "All right, you watch Bob Lazar, and I'll watch Unacknowledged." And man, last night I checked it out, and I've had this theory, and this is where we're going into cuckoo land. But if you're talking about spaceships and UFOs, which have been acknowledged by our government that they are real and nobody knows what they are now. Now we can openly discuss this without sounding like kooky people. But, there's theories and stuff too that make you sound crazy too, like the one I'm about to say. Um, so I had this theory of like, okay, so if the Bob Lazar thing is real, right? And now they're acknowledging all this stuff, the government. So maybe they've been able to reverse engineer some sort of craft that they picked up along the way, right?
Of course, that's actually
Right.
been proven. That's
Okay,
what.
yeah, exactly. And so this movie actually does prove it with actual documentation and all this other stuff. But besides that, like I've just kind of put this together in my own mind of like, all right, then most likely our government, and it's not our government either, by the way. And they explain this in the movie that it's this like deep state that is like not doesn't adhere to what the president says. Although the president is supposed to be the commander in chief of the military, he's not in charge of any of this shit really, and he doesn't know anything. Um, because they've already created this other sub government essentially that does whatever they want. But besides that, getting back, so I'm like, okay, if some entity of government has the ability to create spaceships that float around and move like crazy and shit, right? And what they've been doing in the past with military, with like the Gulf of Tonkin and all these false flag things, is put fear into people to perpetuate war and other shit and get people divided and all this other stuff, then why would they not utilize a new technology like UFOs and stuff to inject more fear into the culture, manipulating culture and your thoughts and minds to think, oh my God, the fucking aliens are going to come fucking kill us, when it's really just some kid in a fucking room with a little remote control whizzing around in this spaceship, right? So people start shitting their pants, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, in this movie, I just came up with this just like a few weeks ago, right? I didn't know anybody else was thinking about this. There's a whole documentary, the whole back half of this, the last like half hour of this documentary is talking about exactly them doing this and how it's going to be done and utilizing media to manipulate the population.
So first they inject the ideas that they're real. Then which is what's been happening now.
Movies,
And
they've been
you're
doing this for
saying
years.
now they're going to
Movies.
move it into more of a, hey, someone just died, or a whole city just got blown up.
Mm-hmm.
So now stay inside
Mm-hmm.
and don't come out.
And we'll take care of it. Just give us all your money, and we need to
Okay.
inject more money into the military and blah, 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 blah. And then there'll be some sort of, they started the space program, right? The space military or whatever that started like a few years back, right? Ugh.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I remember when we were in Australia and they started doing the lockdown in the Gold Coast and we left. It was April 1st, 2019. But soon after, people were talking about um, being on the beach in St. Kilda, which is in the Gold Coast. I'm just saying location and place because I was actually there and I know people that were there and they have confirmed that there were drones flying on the beach with facial recognition and telling people that they need to go inside and quarantine.
They do that in China too. Same shit.
So it's kind of like that was a bit of an experiment. I mean, if you were to just be a free thinker, not, let's not put any judgment. We're just having thoughts and ideas, and this is what's coming through. That it could to see how media treats things and how it gets sensationalized. You could then jump to that next conclusion that we could possibly over sensationalize UFOs by having maybe one or two horrible incidents that we replay over and over and over and over again into people's social media feeds, the news, magazines. You're seeing it everywhere. Speakers in your city, sirens are going off, things are happening, and I could definitely see that this theory could play out, Joe. Not
They've
that I would
done
want
this
it
time and
to.
time again. The Gulf of Tonkin, and then the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. It was all reasons to go to these massive wars, right?
So
And then
then,
just keep perpetuating, and then that's what keeps people's focus on these things, because it's survival again. Survival. They tap into the survival instinct, and gets people further away from exactly what we're talking about, manifesting your own passions, because you don't have time to think about that. The fucking aliens are attacking, or
more
we got,
fear, a new fear thing,
right.
a new thing to be super scared about. I mean, I feel like, do aliens have to be evil? Do they have to be scary? I mean, I don't think so.
Well,
What I've Okay, now here's my crazy, you want to put your crazy theory out there, I'll just put my crazy theory. I think that we probably are all aliens already. I mean, we all look different,
mm,
already. So we probably are pieces of different genetic makeup that come from different species that could have, evolved over millions of years, and we may just be some experiment that's here on this planet, and there's thousands, millions, billions other planets doing the same thing, and consciousness is expanding and we're all connected. So if that were true, which I do believe, if you look at anything in nature, it always points to the fact that everything is connected.
mm,
Everything in nature is connected. When you watch it, if we don't go and mess it up, that it just works. So if you take that on like a grand scale of like all these planets that are running out these experiments or whatever, like this one, then I would like to think that we're all connected, meaning that what we do here affects another planet, affects another planet, affects another planet.
mm.
So I feel like if there are aliens that are more intelligent than us, that were part of creating us, then they would have a vested interest in us working and not blowing ourselves up.
Right. Well, that's
Maybe,
another part of this documentary too, where the people like military personnel, sergeants, whatever, have said that they've seen spaceships come as they're launching a rocket, and it actually shuts the rocket down. They've never actually launched any nuclear rockets, even test ones or whatever, I don't believe, since Hiroshima.
well, and I don't even think that wasn't a nuclear warhead, that was an atomic one, right? Isn't there a difference, or is it the
I
same?
don't know. I don't know. But basically, I don't know. There's people that are saying that it's that they're essentially, the aliens have just like shut down any means of launching anything. Like they can launch it, you can try it, and then they'll just come and just shut it down.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think that they're like, oh, that's our experiment down there, how are they doing? Be like, oh,
And they're
that's
blowing
probably
each other up.
not good.
Or maybe it's like what we were talking about earlier, right? The where you just said, like, a planet like this that is not all on the same page, it could potentially be affecting other planets of whatever, and they're like, you guys are fucking shit up, just
Yeah,
like let everybody be, let them figure these things out, and it's messing their shit up, so they're coming here, they're like, hey, chill the fuck out.
yeah, and there's, to me, like, there's a difference with like I feel like our culture, our Western culture, has become hyper focused on being so individualized that we forget that we actually are all connected. And maybe we just, like there's something to what happens when humans collaborate together. I
Mm,
think when we collaborate together, we become way more powerful. And
mm,
like just for instance, like the stupid little thing that I did a couple weeks ago. I mean, it wasn't a stupid little thing. It actually was really great. But I just mean in the grand scheme of this planet and what we're talking about, it was like a mini experiment. So I work for this production company, and they bought this. It's called an acro tree, and it's this 30-foot aluminum piece of like straps of metal with bars and stuff on it, so acrobats can hang and do tricks from.
mhm,
So most of the time when I do a job for them, it's me by myself, as this is what I do in this position, and I'm coming to do this job for and with these people. But it's still I have a job. It's different to everybody else's. Everybody's job technically is different to everyone else's, and we all get hired to come together to make something happen. But in this particular instance, we had me and two other guys that kind of know each other but don't know each other had to build this tree, and there's kind of danger involved. And if while one guy was climbing the tree, the other had to hold a ratchet while the other one was down making sure that it didn't collapse while we're putting it together. There's like my life is in your hands, your life is in my hands. And at that moment you kind of realize when you're working together with people to create something, it's just so much more powerful than anything else. And I feel like this Western society that we live in right now is not necessarily built for that. We all go out and we drive our separate car to our work and go to our separate cubicle and do our separate thing. Or even if we're in an office with a bunch of people, we're still kind of separate. And so maybe, I don't know, like you think about trying to do something different and create something different, and maybe that the key is just getting together for a common cause, really.
well, also, I mean, well, there's two things. So you, you don't even have to like.
I feel like our brains are breaking.
I know you don't even have to be a part of. So you don't have to consciously be a part of something. Even knowing the people or anything. If you're doing something, I think this is what humans are meant to do. Is like you just love like I don't. I always bring up like jump roping because it's like the weirdest thing, right? But like if you love that, then you just do that. And somewhere along the line, if you do that enough and get more popular in videos or whatever, then somebody else is going to like see that and be like, "Oh, I can utilize that person because I make handles or for jump ropes and they can promote it or something." You know what I'm saying? And it just like works like that. If everybody just focuses on themselves and manifesting what they are really deep down passionate about, everything just works out, I think. Right. Um, but then I think the more we talk about this stuff, the manipulation that like the media shit like we talk about like, oh, these people that are like funneled into this 9 to 5 shit. Maybe that talk, that those words that we're talking about of saying, oh, the majority of people or everybody is like this or like that. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we shouldn't be talking like that because we're putting this maybe false information out. Maybe that's what we're just spitting out what the media wants us to spit out or what the manipulation wants us to spit out of just making everybody feel as though there are more people that don't understand what we're talking about than do, when it might be the opposite. But we don't know that because nobody's talking about it on TV or on your phones or on social media or anything like that, right? But the reality is that I know, at least in my life, when I interact with human beings and travel and whatever, people do understand what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So in my world, this is a reality. Everything that we're talking about, right? And maybe it's the reality of the majority of people, but because of the control over all the media and social media and all this other stuff, you don't see that. So you assume, which is the same thing as your friend saying you can't do it. Whew. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I think like going back to the jump rope and just general passion, whatever your general passion is, we all have that maybe like spark in us. We've had as a child to do XYZ, but then you get out in the real world and it's like it's almost like crossing a busy lane. Like there's just whoa, there's all these things happening, and then you just kind of grab onto one, then you grab onto the next thing, and it starts taking you into a different path because of so many um I don't want to say distractions or temptations, because I feel like that's what religion does and that's a negative connotation, but maybe it's just more about trying to always re-find your path again, or ways for your passion to be expressed into the reality that we live in, which is crazy because everybody it is chaos. It's mad.
Mm.
And we keep talking about mass manipulation and all of that stuff, and after talking this out right now, I'm literally just thinking maybe no matter what, it's always like that, and we just it's where we put our focus and our attention. Because if we say that there's this mass manipulation out there constantly affecting us negatively and we believe that, then that's true. Then every day you wake up and you think, oh, I'm going to be affected by this every day, and this is affecting my life, and I can't do this because of this, and I can't do, and you go down that path, and guess what? You create it.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that, all these ancient religions and ideas of meditation are all about just focus and
Mm.
putting your focus on that one thing. And just if you're hyper focused and you don't have that distraction, then maybe that's it.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
be
definitely the number one thing you could do is just don't even watch the news, at least, right? But even movies, everything is like injecting little thoughts into your head of like how things could be. Speaking of like in Montessori schools, my daughter goes to Montessori school. Uh, they don't allow any kind of like Spider-Man or any of these like creative productions of media or whatever, even comic books. It's a creative thing, but it's like somebody else's creativity. So like they're injecting into little kids what they think those kids would create, but it's not reality. It's not what they might create something different if it wasn't injected into their brain, right?
right. So you're meaning like in Montessori school, they just try and minimize the outside like
Exposure.
fictional characters or whatever,
So they can
so
come
that
up
they
with
can
their
create.
own
Yeah,
fictional characters if they
that's
want,
cool.
right?
That makes sense. I mean,
Yeah,
I do feel like if I had a child, I would want to try and do the best that I could to minimize all of the outside influence so that their own imagination can be fostered, and that
right.
that's like a muscle, right? Like if their imagination is constantly, if they're allowed to use their imagination, you would think that then they would be more hyper focused on their, or be able to be hyper focused on their passion in the world that is so chaotic and can be seen as lots of distractions out there.
Yeah, you would hope. I mean, definitely like, yeah, it's it starts with they're doing it with the kids and you think it's just harmless and like it's cute and like, oh, that's a funny puppy that's talking or whatever the fuck it is, but like it's injecting thoughts into your kid who has the greatest imagination possible, but now you're just like conforming all the creativity into whatever they, you know, that's why kids just dress up for Halloween. They dress up as Barbie dolls or whatever the fuck, whatever the character is, Mickey Mouse or whatever, right? It's because it's not their idea. If they came up with some shit, they might be wearing like some like green and yellow uniform and be like, oh, I'm a fucking, I don't know, lizard fucking banana guy or whatever, like, but but that's weird, yeah, um, but that's real, that's true creativity,
Mm. And part of all of this is then deprogramming your mind from all the stuff that's been injected into your mind and being able to sift through
Oh my god.
what is my own thought, like in my, going back to saying, when I'm alone and I can play guitar and just let kind of, that's kind of like my, I guess I don't really express my emotions very well
Mm,
in words, but I can with music. And that's what guitar does for me. It just allows me to kind of like, whatever is coming through me, just to allow it to happen,
mm.
and not try and copy something that I've already heard or seen, and that's kind of the same idea of like allowing your own imagination to create something in your life, as
The other
opposed to being affected by everything else.
right, right. The other part of it is like now that all this shit's been injected for years and years and years, right, into all kinds of people. It's like now if you're trying to like help people like understand what we're talking about, you actually have to bring up those things to relate to them, and like you have to find new languages and cross barriers to like bring them over to see that, hey, this is real creativity, not you know what you think you thought you knew. But like what would you say before? You said you have to figure out what is my real thought, right? What are my thoughts?
I think
Not
about that all the time. I really do, because I
I got to
uh,
get going here in a few minutes, but go ahead.
yeah, I think about that all the time, because now with so much social media time and television, and I mean, you go to a bar and there's like 50 TVs now. They're big screen and they're loud and they're
Mm,
just like, even if I'm having a conversation with you, all of that is like, going on. Like, I'm seeing a commercial for this drug, I'm seeing this sports channel, I'm seeing this thing that's going on the news in some other country that I'm not in. I'm hearing,
mm,
this woman locally that's lost her dog. I'm hearing like all of that when I'm just trying to have a conversation with you is going on at that one restaurant. But during my whole day, that happens all day long. When I go
mm,
into the grocery store, all the magazines that we see right there before you check out are saying this about this person, this about this person, this is going on in Nature magazine, and oh, cook this for the next recipe, it's fall time, or what.
mm,
It's like all. So then when I get home and I go, oh, I'm gonna make this soup, is it because I fucking just saw the magazine? Do I
mm.
want the soup? Does it sound good? Like, does it matter?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I don't know. It's crazy to try and really sift through. Like, if you really sit down and you go, what is my thought? Like, and that's what meditation to me is about, is just sitting there and like allowing the thoughts to come through and allowing your brain to kind of sift through, like, is this my thought? Is this, and then sometimes then it's just like pure nothing, just bliss, and you just feel nothing, and then all of a sudden, like, wham, you get hit with this multi-million dollar idea. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's yeah, there's a lot of distractions out there. It's that's why it's like so difficult to get to what we're talking about with, you
Mm.
know, just even in people that understand it, it's like tough. This
Well,
is,
bringing it around to Healy, we actually haven't talked about this the whole time.
yeah, I literally have to get going, but
The
I
idea
do.
that you're amplifying your own frequencies, and you're able to get in touch with that aspect of yourself, and then maybe you can expand your own energy.
The other thing is I just thought of this, is it's doing it without you being observing it, right? So it's like you just turn it on and you go about your day doing whatever you're doing, and it's focusing in on those things, as opposed to you like looking at it and watching every wave hit your body or some shit, right? Like,
Yeah, that's a good point. You're just allowing the frequencies to come in. You're not
it's more
really
pure.
yeah, not really thinking too much about it, but allowing it to happen, and it does feel good.
Yeah. All right, we gotta cut it short today. Unfortunately, I gotta go get my kid.
Short as in that was an hour.
It was still an hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Good chats, man. I
I'd like these
feel
things to be like 3 hours sometimes,
yeah, true.
But
I feel like
no,
my
that's good.
brain is it's good stuff to think about.
Yeah.
Hope you guys had some things to think about. We'll put a bunch of links in the video too in the comments.
Yeah. That if you watch this video and you go back, you can see the observation video. I put a QR code up there for it.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, if you want any more information on the Healy project or the Healy itself, just scan the QR code. And that's it.
We out. Have a good day. Have a good week.
You want to do this again tomorrow?
Yeah, if we got time, why not?
All right. So we might be back tomorrow around the
Yeah.
same time.
Keep
All
talking
right.
about stuff.
All right. See you guys later.
All right. Peace.